All right, hey, how's it going? Welcome back to MentFX. So in the last video, we left off after doing a full trade plan walkthrough, a very long video, using the entry and validation timeframes and a proper cycle and schematic to follow for the actual delivery of price to basically place yourself in a trend, understand where you are in the trend, and then follow that given trend on the entry timeframe with the added benefits of what time should you be trading if you're trading a lower base time frame system. Now, to show you this is not like some random fluke or I picked a specific day, because as you guys know, the day that we recorded this one, which was 9/17, this was 9/17 as well, we did the play-by-play of using the entire system with no bullshit, fully with explanation of the system and using the system on that day. And now it's the next day. So once again, what I've done is I've marked out where 5 a.m. is. So all I've done is I've just simply replayed the market back to the 5 a.m. of today, which is, as you can see here, the 18th of September, 4:17 p.m. at the moment. And this is 5 a.m. right here. So we're just doing another day. I have our yesterday's results right here, just so we can follow along with what we had around a 28% win rate, a huge RR gain of 9 RR, assuming a 500K account at 1% at 1 RR, being a 45K gain on your account based on even a lower time frame based entry. And today we're going to continue with that same trade plan with the exact same thing, with the exact same time based understanding of liquidity entering the market, about when that happens, and continuing to follow the overall understanding of validation and entry time frame using the 30-second and the 3-minute for the most part in our trading plan. So let's get right into it. And again, this is going to be an extension of the video you saw prior. So again, as everything on my channel is, everything's usually an extension or an improvement from the thing that you saw before. So we're going to continue from here. We had the trades here that did not end up playing out further for a beautiful run as we wanted to see them play out as per the cycle. Instead, they got stopped out on their stop losses, and that's perfectly fine. And now we're approaching the next 5 a.m. So again, same exact trade plan. Let's assume you get up and you are trading a lower time frame and you're spending your time on the chart. So you're literally sitting there and waiting for an actual opportunity. Let's start from there. So once again, here we are at 5 a.m. right here. And we're going to start once again on our 3-minute, which is our validation time frame. In general, what we're going to be doing through this is we're going to be looking for some kind of clear cycle to start. And we're going to be doing this till around 9:30, 9 a.m.-ish, at which point we'll take a step back due to the same idea that during that time, true liquidity comes in, and usually any trade you get into, whether it be on the bullish side that might be delivering nicely or on the bearish side that might be delivering nicely, oftentimes you get this around the open to decide a new direction of the day or to continue a given direction of the day, because that's how liquidity functions. That's how money enters the markets, and that's what is actually happening when you're trading something like NQ. Okay, so looking at this from the very get-go, right, the previous day when we looked over this, what we did is we started trading around these points here. I think we took you can see right here the results. We had 2 break-evens, a loss, then we had some wins, a loss, some wins, a loss, and we ended with a 30% win rate, around 9 RR gain. And basically, after the open, price began to prove itself momentum-wise to the downside, and we began to follow that down, and that resulted in an overall delivery of the cycle that we weren't out for a much bigger move. Instead, we got stopped out on the way down. And as you guys know, we got stopped out around here on these positions that did end up running a lot more. And I proved to you all and showcased to you that we're not here to pull out the top to the low, the very, very highest entry that you can possibly get to the very lowest price. Instead, we're here to follow rules that guarantee over time we're going to make money. Now, going into the 5 a.m. of today, so again, same thing, 9:18, this is 9:18. So this is how I would approach a market if I was trading a lower based EVC, an entry time frame of 30-second, a validation time frame of 3-minute, and what I'd be looking for. The first thing that speaks to me as I take a look at this is that we started with some kind of bearish cycle. We paused, that bearish cycle continued. So if you were to be trading, there were probably sell-based trades inside of these points here. Price continued, paused again. If there were to be sell-based trades, they'd be in here as you manage this one. And then that finally failed and is now starting to move up. So right now, all we have is a potential distribution that wants to continue this move here, or the start of an accumulation that may want to continue to move higher. So again, we really have nothing to work with. So this is a moment where you simply wait and you allow price to truly prove itself in momentum. Okay, so price begins to prove itself with some momentum here. And in this case here, as we're looking at this, I would suspect that very simply, price wants to continue reaching higher. And again, we have more than enough time to work with trades before that 9 a.m., 8 a.m. area. So we can step down to our 30-second and once again start to look for an overall cycle that we exist in. So at the moment, I'm thinking, where are we within this cycle right here, right? And very simply, we can start by assuming that right here was a major flush. Very simply, that major flush led to a stage 1 into a stage 2. So let me just label everything. So we're going to assume this was the major flush. We'll make this smaller. A major flush into what we would assume became a stage 1, a stage 2, and that started this move. And now we're getting multiple stage 1s and 2s that are somewhat wicky, somewhat correctional, somewhat hard to trade, and I don't really see good opportunities for entry, which is fine, right? But we're assuming that as we look at this, we exist within likely this stage here or some later stage here. So what we're looking for right now is probably a flush out that we can then use to start trading long, or some kind of move that then flushes out and then starts to create moves to go long, because that's in general what we want to see out of a cycle. So that's great because we know we're in some stage 2 or multiple stage 1s and 2s are occurring, and all we're looking for is a reason to potentially get long here. So if we can see a clean flush, that should provide an opportunity to get positioned. Now, as we're looking at this, right, price makes this beautiful, beautiful, 1 into this huge 2. So I assume we're going to go into a stage 1 soon. But this is also a very large move. This is not like a small move that went sideways. This is a very large move. So we could be somewhere here, but we also could be somewhere here or here, which is important because the bigger the move, the bigger the entire move that happens, the likelier you are at the end of a potential move. So if we understand that, we can use that to our advantage. But right now, we haven't really had a crazy flush out yet. And if we go back to the validation cycle, the validation time frame, then what we see is we kind of had this accumulation start. We kind of had this pause. So I would say that maybe one more pause would be worth to potentially trade, because that might take off and then fail down. Something along these lines is very, very likely, because oftentimes you get 1 to 4 of these, as you can see right here. And then beyond that is probably not worth trading. So at the moment, everything is lining up for a potential trade. So we'll step back down to the 30-second, and we'll see if we can get a flush out of this actual market. So price is just kind of, and beautifully enough, we do get another flush out of that market. And from a flush should come buildup of MBs and stage 1s and stage 2s, which is exactly what we'd be looking for. So price flushes down. We'll take a look at the 3-minute in terms of where it's flushed down to. Now, personally, flushes that are quite large like this usually take time to have price actually build out something that makes sense to start to move higher. Otherwise, they tend to chop around and do something like this. And as a result, trading into those is going to be a lot harder. So that's something that I'm already considering as I'm looking at this. Okay. So already I understand that any buildup right now of a setup may lead to some, like right now, this could be a setup. Now, the reason I wouldn't want to take it is because I assume this is for the purpose of probably going into deeper chop and then setting up a move that might be worth trading a little bit later, right? Or to just fail down, which is fine, because we understand that, there's going to be multiple opportunities. Usually if a cycle is playing out during a day, we know around that 9:30 a.m. a new cycle may begin, and that new cycle may sustain itself for the day. So right now, as I look at this, right, I'm assuming we're somewhere likely, because of the move that we've had, in here or in here. So again, I assume we're near the end of some kind of move, and more so than anything, I want to see a new major flush to start a new move to the continuation on the upside, or to start a new continuation move to the downside. So I'm very careful, because I understand that, I missed the trades that would have been available in here or here, of taking a trade randomly here until it becomes more clear. So I'll wait on the 3-minute, and you can see, exactly as we kind of suspected, this is now becoming an overall bigger flush out, which is normal. And that flush out is now actually setting up beautifully. So taking a look at this, it's taken a little bit more time to play in this area. As we take a look at what's actually happening here, right? Prices started to come up. They came down very aggressively. They started to pause. They're now building themselves off the 10 and 20. So right now, I think is a perfectly fine area to consider along in the event that it wants to set up. Okay. So what I'm talking about is that, we had these MBs here build, and now we're getting new MBs or demand zones to build off of them. And honestly, looking at this acts as a very nice bullish opportunity. So right through the high, we can look for that, just set it up above, look for a stop around, like 3.5 is fine. And we'll see if we can get tapped in. So price pauses, comes down a little bit. I would probably cancel this trade now. I would give this a chance to now build up a better setup. So it flushes out deeper, which is perfectly fine, because in flush outs, we can oftentimes build up new setups. And it looks like we missed that trade. It comes down and it starts a move that we get to miss out on, which is okay, right? For some of you, this would have been that trade right here. And that trade is playing out beautifully now. You've already moved to break even very likely. You've even probably taken a partial or are looking to take a partial in the future. As you know, as per the last video, we're using a 1-to-4 based rule, and then we're trailing. So right now I see absolutely nothing on this. We didn't take this, so we're going to be fair with ourselves, and we're going to simply wait for the next part. But as we look at this, right, we need to assume and ask ourselves where we could be in a move. So we had that major flush, and then we had that stage 1 into stage 2. We had that stage 1 into stage 2, and then instead of going into a stage 1, that was deeper, we went into a short-term stage 1 that kept going. That was a very choppy one. So I assume we went through this, which was a choppy version of a stage 1, and we continued higher, and we continued higher. And then we started to flush out again, which I assume puts us somewhere here. So right now, as price is starting to go, I think we're somewhere in this part of the cycle, which means the next part of the cycle is either to do a short-term flush out to create some MBs and then keep going, or to just take off and then fail later, which is great because again, if we miss the move, we miss the move, and that's perfectly fine. And if it wants to set up, it can set up through a flush right now, just like this, and then we can trade it, okay? So beautiful flush comes up, maybe it'll pause here. It's not so clear, right? So again, we know where we are, and we understand that this is building up kind of this double MB, and even though this is a little bit higher, because of where we are, or I suspect we are in terms of the model, I will allow myself to get in for this potential little, move off of this, because overall it's meeting the general conditions and the cycle that we're looking for in price. So we're going to do about 3.75. So again, I'm just looking at the ATR here and doubling it, and we'll see if we can get tapped in. Okay, price taps us in, and now, because we're entering on a momentum-based MB, and I teach this in the MentFX private mentorship, but because this is what we call a momentum-based MB, or it's a little bit higher, what we need to do is we need to basically break even faster than we would even on a normal trade. So really, if the next candle even takes out this high, I'm moving this trade to risk-free. It's as simple as that. So we wait, and now the fact that this price hasn't started making a move yet is already daunting on me, right? It's already a bad thing to me. The fact that this does not end up being a mover that just goes and goes and goes is already bad for me. It's something that I don't like. So personally, I would just move myself to break even here and close the entire trade. That's as simple as my approach is. This might seem crazy or might appear to not make a lot of sense to some people, which is perfectly fine because, again, I'm not here to appease or make sense to people of my system. I just show you guys what I actually do in my trading and how I consider true trends. But the fact that we weren't able to validate this demand and create true demand that wants to keep going leads me to believe that we're going to go through deeper correction. It's as simple, it's like, that's literally it. That's how my brain functions and how my testing has shown me that trades go. So here are our trades on 9-18, and the first one actually starts off with a BE. So again, if this takes off now, I don't care. I'm willing to take the break even because, and let me show you why, because now this same buildup is creating an MB here, and this MB is even bigger. So again, we could even take an entry up here if we wanted to, just like that. But usually I like the entries that come from the flush out. So what I'm going to assume, or what I'm going to look for, is that this is going to create a deeper flush now, as part of maybe a move here or here, that then is going to create the move that I want to look for if this long is going to play out. So we'll delete this. I'll actually just show you guys. Okay, nothing. Okay, so again, yep, it might go, it might not go. It doesn't really matter to me, right? This is a very important part of trading that a lot of people don't talk about. I do not care if this goes without me, doesn't go without me, takes off, then comes down. It doesn't matter to me because at the end of the day, I have rules around my management and I don't want to be in a trade that's not proving to do what I usually want it to do. And again, on top of that, if you take a look at this demand or this MB right here, this as an entry, if you had taken it, would have, of course, been great. And it would have worked out and it would have started going and you would have made a lot of money. Or the ones down here that we spoke about as well. This one specifically that I showed you guys. And those would have been making a lot of money right now. You'd be doing very well. Notice how I'm not here to tell you that, oh, you should have definitely taken that. Oh, but if you took it, you would have made a lot of money and be very profitable. Instead, I'm showing you firsthand that if I'm approaching a market with my own rules, with my own opinion, with my own experience of what I've done in the market, and with my own diagrammatical proof of what a market is going to do if it's going to deliver, all I'm going to do is approach it with my rules and wait for my rules to be met. And if they're not met, I simply let the market do what it pleases. That is the best way to approach trading as someone that wants to be profitable, because then emotions don't affect you. You actually make money. Your EV is positive because you only take the trades that you know you're worth taking. So again, the moves are working. I don't care. And we let this do whatever. And then a flush comes through. Phenomenal. So again, as this happens, I assume we're maybe here or here, right? Because again, we haven't really made the push from this flush that we assume was this flush here. after this entire cycle right here is played out. And if we take a look at the 3 minute now, we've created about 1, 2, 3-ish. This is kind of the third stage one that is happening. So we do have a little bit of power left in this if it wants to continue pushing. And at the same time, we've stopped putting in huge selling, and instead the buying is continuing with quite nice momentum. So with all that in mind, I am more than happy to trade a potential flush out or a potential setup of MBs to the top side if they want to get created. And just like that, we have an MB and an MB forming, and I'm more than happy to take the long through that in expectancy of a move. So let's see if we can get tapped in. So price taps us in, and very simply, we look for basically, if the next candle could do something like this, a move to break even. I would probably wait at least one more candle. Okay, so we get to move our trade to break even, fully managed now, and very simply, as per the last video, so I really suggest that all of you watch the last video, I'm going to look for the 1 to 4 for my first 50% partial and then trail the rest. And again, as I do this now, I'm assuming we are somewhere here or here in the process, which means likely the next move is quite a quick move that then fails, which means I want to take that into account for my own trailing, right? Which means that there may be a chance that I allow myself to take off more as it begins to move into strength, if it moves into strength, because I don't know, this could also, as all of you know, just go like this, right? I don't care, I don't know. Which means that, you know, if that happens, then whatever, we're out of the trade. But in the event that we do get like true power, I may look to close even more of my position here because I'm assuming, based on the cycle, that we're somewhere here already in the move. And if that's the truth, well, we know that we're getting extended and the next moves are likely going to be chopped, with the added exception that we are approaching kind of that 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 9:30 as more and more traders or liquidity comes into the market, which means by those times, as we enter them, we start to expect more chop to start a new direction or continue a direction that we had in the past, okay? So we wait, and we get another mini flush. So stage 1s and 2s, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We get to take 50% off, 1x 50%, and that secures us plus 2 RR, just like that. And now, very simply, right, as I look at this, as we assume where we are, and we're going into this minor flush, again, where am I in the cycle? Okay, I'm assuming we are at some point here in the cycle because in general, the market cycle delivers like this over and over and over again. Now, this might explode, and if it does, phenomenal. But I'm keeping that in mind. Now, I don't have a way to really just fully close this. I don't think we should fully close yet. I think that personally, if we get a crazy move out of this, we can close another partial into the strength and then let the rest trail into some real weakness because we know it's going to likely come soon. So this is how I basically understand what the next moves in the market are going to be without actually seeing the market do it, because I have an understanding to what a good market is going to deliver like in the event that it's following a full cycle. This is what you want your trading to look like in terms of, you know, in terms of approaching markets, understanding what markets are going to do, and everything in between. Okay, so it actually just flushes out and ends up being a full break even on the other 50%. So final was a BE. So there was no other partials, and that's the entire trade. Phenomenal. And as that happens, right, I simply assume that we've entered this moment here, which means that likely, we're going to go through chop now. So I know on the 3-minute time frame, which is my validation, this is all for the purpose of probably establishing some chop. Yes, it might make another move, and that can happen, and that's okay. But likely, the move is going to do something like this, and that's where a lot of traders get shaken out, don't understand what's going on, get stopped out, start getting faked out, and don't know why the fuck it's happening. Well, it's because a cycle is played out, and if you're positioned here or here or here or here, you're now in a trade that might go, and then you can hold for a good trail, or it's going to collapse now. So let's take a look at what actually ends up happening. Yep. It's very much, and it very much could be the case, because theoretically this is hindsight as it's a back-tested tool. It theoretically could be the case that I studied all this action before making this video, and that, you know, I'm just walking you through all the action that I've already studied. Now, I don't personally trade NQ at all. I don't even trade on a lower time frame. I may in the future, as Men Funding, by the way, the best funding firm in the entire industry, will have futures in the future, futures in the future. So trading on stuff like this or assets like these or US 100 or whatever is going to be possible. So I want to show a lot of you that are already trading with some futures firms or whatever, or are going to be trading with Men Funding or trading US 100, aspects of how you can do that using proper approach to the market, a proper cycle. And all I'm doing is I'm following the cycle in establishing where I might be and what may occur as a result of that, right? So again, it could have been the case that this continued, and that wouldn't matter. But the fact that it's broken down and chopped around and then broken down is further proof or further explanation as to how cycles of the market work and what you should be doing as a trader if you want to continuously get on the right side. So as this happens, we put in potentially a bearish bias, because now, as we're moving to the downside, we're now below the 10 and 20 moving average, which means that we might create a move like this to the downside. But we're also approaching that 9 a.m. So with that all in mind, we wait to see if we do get that mini like pullback, just like that. And we assume if it's worth to take on risk into this given move. So I think this is looking quite nice for a potential follow through, maybe on a move down like so. Okay, and I do think we still have a little bit of time before we start hitting those like 9 a.m. parts. So there may be a trade to take in here, right? Maybe here or a little bit later that can go, we can partial, and then we can close the rest before the potential craziness begins for a new directional bias or a continuation in a given directional bias. Okay, which means that now we want to establish where we might be in a cycle if there is a cycle to be had. So what we do, once again, is we delete the prior stuff we've looked at, because again, it can make us not know what we're looking for. And we must recognize, that this could be the start of a bullish move, but also could be the start of a bearish move, right? Both can be true. And price is somewhat moved into distribution based on the MentaFX premium indicator right here. So what we could start to do is we could view this entire push here as a major flush. And from that major flush came a stage 1. So basically a stage 1 distribution into a stage 2 that is now delivering, right? Which means that potentially, if we flip the market now, there is a chance that we are within this aspect of price right here with maybe the start of a push here, right? So again, all of that is happening in my mind as I'm looking at this to establish if it makes sense to follow through with something. And now, wow. So we get a crazy move that I don't personally get to trade. Now, based on your rules, some of you may have traded some of the action inside of here based on the demand, or in this case, supply, that got validated to form, and then you get a move out of it. That's perfectly fine. My own rules were not met, so there's nothing I can do as a result of that. But what I can do is I can measure where I am in the move. We have that major flush, we have a stage 1 into a stage 2, and that stage 2 makes a very lengthy push. Now, again, assumption-wise, we could be in the move right here before a flush out to start a new build-up to go higher. We could be maybe somewhere like here, but this stage 1 here, but this stage 1 here just ended up being a little bit higher and kept going. So that could be this stage 1 to the stage 2. So basically, I'm assuming we're here, here, or somewhere here, which means the likelihood of the next flush creating an opportunity that can be traded is actually very, very good. So if the 3-minute now, if we go over to the validation, can find itself momentously leading on these averages, which it's doing so right now, we just missed this trade, the one I just spoke about through this high, then I want to continue taking this long. But we're also approaching that 9 a.m., which is very important, because the fact that we've missed this and the fact that we didn't get a trade inside of here means that whoever is positioned here will be looking to profit as this begins to make a move. And then around this point, we'll be looking to fully concate or close their positions, which we have to keep in mind. Because again, those points are points where big money starts to enter the markets, because big money starts to wake up, and that's around when more liquidity comes in. So more liquidity causes more liquidity, causes more liquidity, causes disruption. So we pull back and you can see we're approaching that 9 a.m. So right now, if you are to take trades, well, you need to be aware that any trade you take now is likely going to start chopping around because of the fact that liquidity creates liquidity creates liquidity. And if you're not in this trade here, the one we just looked at, then you shouldn't be in anything to start with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinvert to the actual area we're at. I'm going to delete the prior cycles that we're looking at. And I'm going to let the market open up and do whatever it needs to do. So this is around 9 a.m. We have momentum to the top side. Again, I'm just looking at that 9:30 right there. So 9:30 is coming along, and 9:30 comes along, and again, you get your insane chop, and all of a sudden, you actually get a huge momentum push to the downside. So we start the potential of a bearish-based move of what's going on here. Okay, let's see if it wants to sustain itself. Then it makes a very, very large pullback, very large, and it starts to pause on the 10 and 20. Now is when I want to jump down to my 30-second and ask myself if there's a cycle that is delivering here that is worth trading. So again, I flip the market and take a look at what all of this has done for us, right? What we now have is we have a major flush very clearly. That major flush, let's actually write it out. That major flush has now led to a stage 1, which becomes an accumulation, okay, into a stage 2, which has begun delivering. And from there has come another flush. Great. So as we take a look at this and understand where we are in this overall market condition or in the overall cycle of this market, especially on this given day, and this is again today, actual action today, well, we simply assume that we are within this area here and we're now starting this flush, which means the next steps are building up MBs that are worth trading or going through deeper flushes that create bigger stage ones that then give us new opportunities to potentially get positioned. But we know we're near the start of some kind of move, so beautifully enough, we can start to hunt for potential trades, okay? So we'll see if we get a flush. Looks like we do start to build MBs out of here. And yes, if any of you look to trade this or thought these were good trades, then good for you. I was considering it. I didn't like the fact that these got right together. I was looking for more of a play out of the flush, which is perfectly fine. Because again, each person is independent in regards to exactly what they want to look for or if something is worth taking risk for them. So anyone that's positioned on this now is at break even and going to let this move go if it wants to go, because again, we assume we're probably here or here. So now comes a move that goes through deeper flush out and then sets up again, or a move that starts to go and then keeps you in a potential long-term trend. And I missed it. And again, that's okay. Learn to be patient and allow those moves to come to you. Don't start to force things if something is not clear. So price does make a decent little move out of there, but it looks like it's about to flush again, which is perfect. And we do go through a flush. So again, like as this is happening, I'm assuming we're going through exactly what I want to see, which is this right here. And the next step is building up MBs that want to start creating longs, or in this case, shorts, because we're inverted, right? That want to start creating shorts to the downside. But I'm doing this as an inversion so you guys can see the exact same thing as me, okay? So we're looking for a pause. Now that is absolutely beautiful. Yep, looks really nice. So this is where I'm more than happy to take a short through that point, protect the low, and look to take it long, just like that. So we get tapped in. So price is pausing quite a bit, and then as you can, so I'm going to cancel that, and it starts making a new MB or demand point here. So we can pause again here. Beautiful. That should act as a nice opportunity to start selling or to get back in the sells to keep going on this move if it wants to go. So again, where am I in the move? I'm assuming I'm right here. I'm assuming we're inside of this flush. I'm assuming we're building up demand right now. That might become deeper demand. Actually, we might even be right here, creating that demand to start to move higher, which is phenomenal because, well, we're following the cycle. The cycle is proving to do one thing. The 3 minute, if we take a look at the 3 minute right now, right, is momentously moving and finding itself on the 10 and 20. So the assumption is continuation. Let's go to 30-second and see if this thing wants to tap us in. So price taps us in. And okay, so taps in, no power yet, so nothing to do, and actually taps us right out. That's actually beautiful. So 1x minus 1. Simple as that. We eliminate this, and we assume we're still in that stage 1, because again, you know, we're building that flush, we're building, you know, this setup right here just failed, which is perfectly fine, and now we might build another one, because maybe price wants to flush out a little deeper and start up a move here, or even start a move higher, flush out, and then start a move here. All of which is perfectly acceptable, all of which I'm more than happy to trade in the event that it occurs. So price does push deeper. And it starts to form this MB right here, okay? Now, I don't like when price gets choppy like this because oftentimes when you enter and chop, you get stopped out through further chop. So I'm going to wait for price to prove itself just like that and hopefully put in a sideways candle that I can then sell through after, given that price is now proven that it can potentially deliver. Now, instead of delivering, right, instead of coming and starting to accumulate again, or in this case, further distribute, price just kind of falls down. So I'll cancel this again, and I'll let this chop manifest into cleaner MBs or fail back down. Okay, so it comes up, creates an MB here, but now you're seeing a lot of like pausing here, not really clear in action. This is the kind of action I don't usually like to see. So this is where I ignore it. Even though, again, this may work and price may go and then go, I don't care. This is not clean to me. Even though I might be right about where we are and maybe it does make that move, because of the unclarity in terms of what I'm looking for, I simply ignore it and I'll let it do whatever it needs to do now. Okay, well, given some time, it is making it a little bit cleaner, but the fact that we have all this of this prior wick and we're just at that point and we haven't really flushed below the MAs in a clear way, and now we're just accumulating across some rising averages that are also, if you notice, a little bit wicky, I'm going to skip this trade. even though it may work, it doesn't matter. I'm more than happy to skip it. So so it does its thing, and yeah, off we go, it looks like. Okay, so cool. So we assume that what we were doing is completely correct. And we're assuming that we're probably here, getting ready for another setup, or here, which is likely what I think we're in. I think we're in this, which means that we still have the opportunity for a flush to occur to continue creating further bases that will create opportunities that keep getting long on this, okay? So I'm more than happy to continue watching for that. So we can skip to the 3 minute, and we can let this thing basically show us if it wants to catch itself on those points again, okay? So we wait, we'll see if we get a nice flush out on this, and we do. And from there should come phenomenal. The buildup of MBs, which should create opportunities to get positioned on the actual move. And there we are. So again, we assume we're basically right here, okay, or right here. So we know we're still in a good stage of the delivery that's going to come before a potential real failure. So we can get ourselves positioned and maybe broken even on a trade before getting stopped out. We get tapped in, and now the game is as simple as let some strength come in and move to break even. Strength comes in, but not enough yet. I think if the next candle takes out this high, we will move to break even. Yep. The trade is now a guaranteed break even. We'll look for our first partial at that 1 to 4 if it wants to go. Otherwise, we'll simply take the break even. Okay, so we get a very easy break even on that trade. And we're back to the drawing board. Again, assumption is we are somewhere in this move. This is where we entered. We assume that now, it ended up taking us out. Maybe it ends up going, or it flushes again a little bit later for a move that we can get positioned on. And if that can happen, great. We'll be behind the move. Beautiful flush out. Beautiful flush out. As I see this happen, it really does look like we're in an area like this right here. So I think that a move is still very, very much plausible from this overall action, okay? Yep, little pause just before. You have this MB into this formation of an MB. And here, because of this nice pause, I think a candle that starts to move higher here would cause these MAs to shift upwards, which means that we'd be in average pricing that is moving in our direction. So I'm happy to take a sell through that high, protect the low, and see if we can get inside of this mini stage 1 to trade higher. So we do get tapped in, and the game is the same. We look for further management on the strength if we get any. So we're pausing quite a bit, but I do like the buildup. This is still building up this MB here, so I'm going to give it a chance for a sec. Okay, I think next candle, based on what it does, we can even close at break even if it ends up coming down. So we'll take a look. So this is a very hard one, but what I would do here is I would set a break even here. So that means that I'm not out of this right now. It means that if price comes back up, I'll be at break even. And what I will also do is, because of the setup that's happening here, since we're building this MB right here, I will set up a new trade above. So the way this works is if this comes down, I will take a loss. If this comes up here and then comes down, I will take a break even. If this comes up and then up here, I will take a break even and then I'll enter a new trade. Because again, if the market is gonna go, well, I'm happy to get in here at a more worse price. And if it's not gonna go, I'm happy to get out at the fact that it's already proving to chop around. So this is a little bit more advanced, but that's how I approach the market. So we do take the -1. This can all cancel. None of this matters now. We take a 1x -1, just like that. We don't even have to check the 3 minute. We know we're still in that 3 minute move. We know this is still the overall flush. And now we might go into new MB buildup to continue this move to the top side. Now, instead of doing that, it looks like it's failing back down. So now we've moved into, if we flip it back to the normality and we get rid of everything here, we're starting to put in some momentum to the top side. Okay, great. So again, notice how an EVC that is lower time frame based means that the trend on any given day can change a lot faster. And you need to be there and aware of the fact that trends can change and the moments in time that you're trading can change because, well, you're looking at much lower time frames, okay? So this is looking like a phenomenal pause. Let's see if it gets bought up. It does. You can see it gets bought up a little bit here at the 10 and 20. So I'm interested to understand where I am in the cycle in the event that this is a move. Now this is very choppy, and that's important to remember because again, choppy action is harder to trade. But this is still a major flush. This started at stage 1. This started that stage 2. right here, stage 2. So again, this is overall accumulation. Starts at stage 1 into the stage 2. It flushes out, not super deep, but it does flush out and then starts to move higher. So we're probably here or here in the move, assuming that further follow-up is buildup of MBs to get long. Push higher, see if we get a pause. We do. So you have this MB followed by the buildup of a new demand. More than happy to take, this is not a sell now, this is a long now, a real long. Take a long through that, protecting again around double the ATR or just under. This looks fine to me. And once again, we'll look for strength. Nice pause, see if we can tap in now. Okay, and we do tap in. So once again, we look for some strength so we can move this to break even. No strength yet. Now, all I'm looking for is if this can take out the high, I will move to break even. Does not end up doing that, and very easily, we end up taking another loss. Wow, trading is not as easy as everyone thought. There are some days where you're going to perform very well. An example would be yesterday's action, and there are some days where most of the day will be filled with normal break-evens, small wins, and normal losses. That is perfectly normal. The faster you understand that, the better you're going to do for yourself in your own trading. Now, as we take a look at this, we now retain and re-push to the downside. Okay, so now if we flip this, we are starting, this is still a little bit of a choppy market. We do end up making this push, and now we're starting true momentum to the top side. So true momentum should be met with pauses on the 10 and 20 to continue trading in the given direction. And this does pause, but it does not look like it's going to provide any opportunity for an entry, right? Very hard to trade this. But again, a new cycle has begun. So we were wrong about the start of this bullish cycle. And instead, this was the continuation of a bearish cycle. So what actually happened is we had a major flush after a push. So here's your push into a major flush, a push into a major flush, a stage 1 into a stage 2, a stage 1 into a stage 2, into what is now likely a flush or future flushes that are going to lead to new MB entries. Great. Let's wait for those. So huge stage 2 begins that we're not positioned on. That's perfectly okay. Based on how you trade, there were positions throughout this. Again, based on the trades you're looking for and based on the way you trade, these could all be positions. Personally, I have worked out the rules that I want to personally follow in taking trades, so I get to skip them. And I'm okay with skipping them. And I'm also okay with missing the move if it doesn't want to provide an entry for me. Now, we get a flush. Now, again, this flush is happening kind of high up. I assume that we're kind of skipping some of these stage 1s and 2s, and I'm assuming we're putting ourselves somewhere here or here at the moment, which means that the next move is likely either going to get me in and then, continue a crazy move as it's already doing, or is going to further flush deeper and then create a move here. And I'm willing to take both of those trades as risk because they're setting up in a very beautiful way. So here's a sell. Well, it's a long, but it's a sell that we're going to take, protect the low, and see if we can get tapped in. So we get tapped in with huge selling. Next candle, if it takes out the next high, more than happy to move to break even. Just like, did it take out the high? It did not. We'll wait. Okay, very easy. So we get to move our overall stop to break even, just like that. And once again, we'll look for 1 to 4 on this given trade. And once again, we ask ourselves where we are. This is why I don't care about wins, losses, or break-evens in my trading, because I know over time I'm going to make money. I know I'm likely here, or I am here. Okay, I don't know which one it is. But what I do know is that if price takes me out, it's for the purpose of setting up a better trade, right? Because I know I could be in this part of the cycle, it might take me out, and then it might make a flush to make a better setup. So this is how I am perfectly content with price moving with me, without me, continuing if it needs to continue, stopping me out if it needs to stop me out, because I'm aware that I am trading a cycle to price. I'm trading a trend template. And I'm aware that that means that over time, I'm going to make money, but it means that in the short run, I don't know how the market is going to deliver necessarily, okay? So this does stop me out at break. Actually, no, it does not. So, okay, using the rules that, again, I taught you guys in the last video, this would not be a stop out because, again, I use the actual candle highs. I don't use the entry price. So this would be like a minus 0.2 if we lose it, which is still likely, but I'm showing you this because, again, you need to be realistic with your own trading. Okay, cool. So just making sure. There we are. So 1x like minus 0.2 or something. We'll just record it as such. It's probably not even that much. It's more like if this is 11 and this is 1, yeah, it's more like minus 0.09, right? Even less, but whatever. It does not matter. We'll get rid of this. And once again, we assume, or I'm assuming, we're probably about to go through a flush, which is great because a flush should set up new opportunity for us, okay? Beautiful flush. And now I want to see this accumulate. Does not look like we're doing that. Looks like we're just going through the change up of direction, which is perfectly fine, right? Because this could be the cycle of a higher time frame building the next accumulation, or it could be the start of true distribution, right? So this is how we end up thinking. Now we're around 12 p.m. here, so afternoon. I think trading into like around 2 p.m. is the best thing you can do, 2:30, 2 p.m. or so. So that's where we're going to trade to, and then we're going to see where we leave ourselves off, okay? Yep, so very, not much momentum, very awful momentum. So I'd probably ignore all this action. Yeah, I mean, I don't see the momentum here. But the momentum does continue to the top side and pauses. So right now we're clearly in a cycle to the upside, right? We're in the normal up cycle. We went through a major flush. We built the stage 1. We started a stage 2. We went through this kind of like mini flush, a little bit hard. And we started a stage 2. And now we're going through another mini flush. Now, these can provide entries. They're just not the kind of entries I personally look for. I like to see a more larger flush like that. And then the buildup of true accumulation out of that, just like this. So you build accumulation, then you pause. We don't really get a nice pause until right there. Beautiful. And those create the opportunities that I like to usually look for. Protect that. And more than happy to enter if it wants to tap me in. Fails further down, goes through that deeper flush. Perfectly fine. See if it wants to accumulate out of that now. Starts a minor accumulation, pauses again. So again, this is one of those examples where you are building this like double MB, but I don't like these tiny ones always, and I don't like the fact that we're under like this 50 that's sloping down now. Take a look at the 3 minute in terms of where we are. The 3 minute actually perfectly corrected into the 1020. So if it's gonna find any support or continuation, this is exactly where those orders are gonna come in. So because of that, so this is where the validation and the entry time frame kind of intertwine. Because of that, I'm actually willing to take on the risk of a trade that usually, I don't like as much, in the hopes that maybe it becomes a better trade anyway. Because again, all it can do now is maybe it pauses further, right, and becomes a better trade, and this is better. But I like this overall, and I've seen these moves work, so I'm more than happy to trade it. Phenomenal. So we'd get tapped in right there. And now once again, we look for strength to move ourselves to break even. Phenomenal. Beautiful strength, easy break even. And just like that, our stop is at break even. And we set this to 1 to 4 as our first partial. Here we are. And we let this thing do whatever it needs to do. Okay, so starts a beautiful move, goes through a flush instantly. So this flush might create new opportunity, which is perfectly fine, but this ends up being a break even. Simple as that. On to the next trade. Very heavy flush, important to remember that. So heavier flush, maybe we're in a deeper section here or right here, right? We might have just gone through that mini like start, then we went through this flush here, probably this flush here. We went through this deep flush, deeper flush, maybe this one here. And now we're going through a super deep flush, which actually might just be this move here or this move here. I assume because this made a bigger move up, we're probably somewhere here. So the next steps could be the buildup of an MB or the setup of some demand that we can actually trade. And yeah, we do get that. So this is like the last time I would actually be okay with taking a trade. Otherwise, if this results in failure, we simply walk away from the market and we return the next day. Okay, this taps us in. We now look for a reason to break even. I don't see a reason yet. I would wait for at least one more candle to kind of move through this. Beautiful, very simple. Stop loss to break even. 1 to 4 as our first partial, and we wait. Yep, beautiful break even, and it's likely that the rest of the day is going to be spent in quite some chop. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to show you guys like what I would do in the event that I am watching it. Let's just see. So it goes through that further flush out. Because again, this is this is 1:30 p.m. 2 p.m. is around here. is around 2 p.m. 2:30 is around here. So again, as you reach into the 3:30 area, you get closer to market close, which means you get closer to a more sporadic environment. So as you approach kind of the close of the market, you want to be positioned and then taking your positions out, or you want to be in profit, right? In big profit, so you're willing to just accept whatever happens. And if this wants to set up now as, a move that I think we're in, which is here, right? This is the flush out. We maybe had a little push, a further flush out. So now we're building these MBs here. I'd be okay with taking another opportunity here because on the day we spent a good amount of time taking proper break evens. So yeah, this is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, this trade. Right through that high, throw the stop under the low, see if we get positioned. Whoops. We'll just make this 1 to 4 right now. There we go. Okay, we get tapped in. We look for strength, beautiful strength, but doesn't sustain itself, and we take a very easy -1. Oh, well, fun. And this is part of the lower time frame. Maybe during this time because the lower, yeah, that was 2 p.m. exactly. So maybe probably don't trade into that. Nonetheless, record your losses, record everything because, well, it's important. And the move does continue, but again, anyone that actually trades and makes money during times like these, oftentimes will blow up their accounts over enough time, right? Go back to the 3-minute. We'll take a look at where we were. Yeah, so that 3 minutes started that move, was quite nice. This is where we started to get involved, and then you just got that huge wick, just part of the game, and we're back to square one, right? We come down, 30-second. Now we're approaching 4 p.m., so this is one of those examples where, you probably wouldn't want to touch anything now. What did I just do? Oh, we're at live price now? 230. Oh, 230 was here, and then we started the end of the day shenanigans, which did whatever this was, right? And now we're just kind of ignoring price because, again, you're going to have liquidity actually enter price around that 9 a.m.-ish. And there we go. Beautiful. I finally got a video where it's not just wins, because every day is going to be far from a win. So in adding everything up, on this day we took +2, -1, -1, -1, right? Wait, +2, -1, -1, -1, -1, and then -0.09, which is like whatever, -2.09. So this ends up at a -2.09, just like that, RR on the day. And now what we can do is we can actually do an overall add up, right? So we can make this much smaller. And now you can start to see how a system gets created and how you actually start making money over time. So now on 2 days of trading, if we make this larger, so now you do 917 plus 918. This is literally how consistency is built in the market. You had the 9.01 minus 2.09. And now very simply, 9.01 minus 2.09. On 2 days of trading, you've put yourself at plus 6.92 R in game. Okay. There you are. So a proper way to start viewing what equity curves and everything else will look like. And that is how, so within the MentaFX private mentorship, we have this sheet available to all our members where you can put your data in. This is a sheet that you'll have forever. You get it for, completely free for being a part of the team. And, this is my personal results from around February. So this right here was February of this year. You can see my win rate's around like 38%. My break-even rate's very high because you get to see how I'm kind of breaking even. My loss rate is only 20.5%, but I expect this to go up. All right, and we get to paste all our data here. Now, what's cool is that if you start to actually properly paste data and you start to look through what your trades end up looking like, you start to build a proper understanding of how equity curves go up. You start to see firsthand how, this was from a client, you start to see firsthand how equity curves actually increase over time. Okay, there you are. And you can see that it's done not through just wins and nonstop wins, but it's actually, can you guys see that? There we go. How equity curves increase over time. And you can see that it's not done through just wins, right? The wins are the things that over time, enough time, make it go up. But the real thing that makes this curve do very well is the fact that I consistently take good and well-placed break-evens and losses, right? A lot of my recent trades, just to show you guys this, a lot of my recent trades, let me read you what my most recent trades look like. Ready? -2, -1, -1, 0, 0, -1, 0, -1, -1, 0, 1.8, -1, 0, 3.7, 0, 3.4. Now, when you hear me read that, the only thing that goes off in your mind, the thing that beeps your mind, is the -1, -1, 0, -1, -1, 0. And it sounds, and it will feel like, especially when you're trading live, that everything you're doing is just wrong and wrong and wrong. And it's a -1 and it's a 0 and it's a -1 and it's a 0. And then you get one win, but it's a -1 and a 0 and a -1 and a 0 and a small win and a plus. But then when you look at the actual data, even with your wins that come every so often, all of a sudden, those -1s and zeros and all the things that happen in between start to matter a lot less. And again, even like a video like today, if a lot of you are sitting here watching and you're like, wait, I just watched him take 0, +2, -1, 0, -1, -1, 0, 0, 0, -1. When you hear that and you see it live, I assume a lot of you went through like a brain shock, like, oh my God, he's taking losses. It's crazy. How is he taking losses? Right? What the fuck? He's not winning. But then you look at it as a whole, and we're looking at a 7RR gain, or 7% if you're risking 1% per trade, over the course now of 2 days. Now, over the course of 3 days, assuming that I do this tomorrow again, this could go down to +4RR. After the course of 4 days, it might be at +2RR or +1RR. Over the course of 5 days, it might be at +12RR, because it takes one more day of a good trade that we end up catching, right? So yesterday, the trade that we ended up catching is this. Today, the trade that we ended up catching was some of the ones in here, but none of them wanted to follow through. And as a result, we weren't able to get a very crazy good position. It's perfectly fine, right? And then tomorrow, you might get a good trade. You might get a good entry. You might not. That's what trading is about. You don't know necessarily when the next trend or the next good trade or the next big win is going to come. But what you do know is that you're going to make money over time. And the more you focus on the actual process by which you get your wins, your losses, and your break evens, basically the process by which you get your losses and your break evens. So the more you allow yourself to take proper losses and break evens and allow it to be a good thing, just like we did today, the likelier you are to see overall profitability in the long run. I'll see you in the next one.